The warm sun clings to the dry earth of the countryside. You can hear the soft rustling of leaves, the rhythmic bleat of sheep as they graze lazily near a small Roman villa. The smell of fresh bread fills the air, a scent so comforting it almost feels like home itself, the taste of warm goat's milk lingering in the back of your throat. The soft murmur of your mother as she tends the fire, the light clinking of pottery as your father grinds grain. These sounds, these familiar motions, they define your world. It is simple, peaceful, safe. You stand in the shade of a sturdy oak tree, watching your father labor with pride. The sunlight casts long shadows over the stone walls of the villa, the world a canvas of rustic beauty. Everything about this life is normal, comforting, almost eternal. You are just a boy, but this life, the one where you wake at dawn and sleep beneath a canopy of stars, this life feels permanent. But then, you hear it. Hooves, thundering, heavy, and unmistakable. They disrupt the harmony. The ground beneath your feet grows colder with each step, the familiar landscape slipping away like the fading memories of a life you'll never return to. They push you through the hills, the forest, and across barren plains, day after day. The air grows thick with the stench of sweat, blood, and sickness. You watch as the boys who can keep up, those who fall ill or grow weak, are left behind, abandoned like broken tools. They die alone, their names forgotten by the very empire that condemned them. Each one's death is a whisper on the wind, a reminder of what awaits you if you falter. You barely register the first few days. You've been pulled out of your world, and the reality of what's coming hasn't sunk in yet. The towering marble structures, the sound of distant crowds, the shimmering grandeur of the empire that rules over the world. The streets are lined with statues of gods, their eyes cold and unfeeling. They begin their cruel work immediately, stripping you of your name, your past, everything that made you who you were. You are given a new name, one that belongs to Rome now. You are no longer your mother's child, your father's pride. You are just another asset in the empire's unyielding machine. You are just a boy, insignificant in this sea of splendor. They lead you through the gates of the imperial court, where the most powerful men in the empire reside. You walk past marble halls, beneath towering arches, into a world you were never meant to see, where every step you take is another step into a life you cannot escape. At first, it feels like a dream, a foreign, shining dream. You are drawn in, entranced by the beauty of it all. The grand temples, the towering columns, the luxurious homes filled with wealth beyond comprehension. But the closer you get, the more you realize it is a prison wrapped in gold. The only sounds are the clattering of armor, the low murmurs of your captors, and the strained breaths of boys like you. Boys whose futures have already been sealed. Your father's expression shifts from calm to pale, eyes wide, locked onto the dirt path that stretches into the distance. Your mother's hands freeze, trembling as she drops the pitcher of milk. It shatters across the stone, the sound deafening, unnatural. You are to become part of a system much darker. You are nothing more than a tool, your worth determined by your body, your beauty. They tell you that you are lucky, that you will be honored to serve the emperor, but you begin to understand. This is no honor. It is a trap. The walls around you are not just stone, they are a cage. The Roman Empire is built on the labor, the pain, and the bodies of those who have no say in their future. You are a concubine, a possession for those in power, to be used, abused, and discarded as needed. But you press on, each step dragging you further from the boy you once were. Your thoughts begin to blur, becoming a haze of exhaustion and fear. Hope, once a bright light, fades, replaced by a creeping dread. The boy who once played by the hearth now finds himself marching towards a fate worse than death, and it becomes clear, death is no longer the worst that could happen. Don't let history be forgotten. Help us uncover more of the dark ancient stories that most people would rather ignore. His body gives out, and the guards, showing no mercy, leave him to the elements. You see his body the next morning, stiff and cold. It is just another lesson. Survival here is not about strength, it's about obedience. Subscribe to Dark Ancient Stories and help us make sure their voices aren't silenced. If you're still not hitting that button, let us know why. Your silence is a story in itself. You learn that death is not an end but a silent companion, always walking just behind you. If you're not subscribing, tell us in the comments why you're okay with letting this dark truth slip away. They're here. You feel the weight of your future, the weight of your fate, crushing you. And all you can hear is your mother's cries, fading as you are torn from everything you've ever known. A procession of Roman officials emerges from the dust, their faces cold and unfamiliar, as if they belong to a world that has no place for you, no place for your family. They carry scrolls, their eyes scanning the land, their intentions as clear as their regal attire. And then they point at you. Your heart stops. The air thickens. If this shocking reality doesn't make you wonder about the hidden horrors of history, then hit that subscribe button. They march you out of the villa, away from the comfort, the safety, and the warmth. The days stretch on, the sun unforgiving, as the officials drive you on. The path is long, winding, and brutal. The pain begins to set in. Your feet are raw from the miles of travel, your stomach hollow with hunger, your throat dry with thirst. You watch another boy, barely a year older than you, stagger and fall to his knees. If you think this isn't worth learning, imagine how many other stories like this are lost in history. And then you see it, Rome. The city is a place of power, of decadence, but it is also a place of fear. You are given no time to wonder, no time to grieve. But it doesn't stop there. You soon learn why they've brought you here. You are not a servant, nor a soldier. The very air in the palace is thick with the scent of power, opulence, yes, but also fear. This part of history is uncomfortable, but we must acknowledge it. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Every video like this is a chance to dive deeper into forgotten stories that deserve our attention. The marble halls that echo with the footsteps of the elite are nothing more than the footsteps of your prison guards. The days blur together, a cycle of rigid routines and unrelenting surveillance. The emperor's eyes are cold, calculating, and when he looks at you, he does not see a child, a person, or a soul. He sees a body, a tool, and when your beauty fades, so too will your worth. The emperor comes, as he always does, with his demands. You forget who you were before this place consumed you. Leave a comment below about why you're not subscribing. Not just the power of the emperor, not just the power of the empire, but the power among the boys, the concubines, the eunuchs, and the officials who pull the strings. The older concubines, those who have endured years of subjugation, begin to groom you. They do not care for you, not truly. No, their intentions are as cold as the stone walls that imprison you. A few lucky ones might even catch the emperor's eye, become favorites, flaunt the silks and jewels of power. Subscribe now and help us bring these dark stories to light. Don't leave us here. Comment below and explain why you think this topic doesn't deserve to be remembered. But those who fail, those who resist or show signs of weakness, are quickly forgotten. Your body becomes an object, something to be traded, used, discarded when it no longer holds value. In its place, you are given a number, a label to signify your worth. You become a thing and nothing more. The procedure is brutal, carried out in the silence of the palace, the cold stone walls bearing witness to the screams that echo through the halls. Drop a comment telling us why you won't support uncovering the truth behind these tragedies. The pain is excruciating, but the physical trauma is just the beginning. It is the psychological toll that breaks you. Once, they were taken from their homes, just as you were. They know the system better than anyone. They know what it takes to survive, and it's that knowledge that gives them control. They wield that power with precision, using their position to manipulate, to reward, and to punish. Once, they too were boys, with names and families and dreams. Don't let these stories fade away. Hit that subscribe button now and tell us in the comments why you aren't joining the movement to expose these ancient horrors. They know the pain of being taken, the suffering of being stripped of identity, but they have no choice but to perpetuate the cycle. They break you, just as they were broken. Their faces, once innocent, are now the faces of authority, faces that smile, but their smiles are empty. They no longer feel the pain of their past. They've buried it beneath layers of cruelty. But all of that was erased. Now, they stand as the enforcers of the system that destroyed them, the cold hands that keep the machinery of exploitation running smoothly. The memories of your family, your village, your simple life, fade like mist in the morning sun. You no longer dream of escape. You dream only of survival. They call you by your new name, and though it feels foreign on your tongue, you have no choice but to answer. They were once victims, and in a cruel twist of fate, they become the abusers. The system has warped them, just as it warps everyone who enters. It is a cycle with no end, where those who survive are forced to participate in the same horrors they once suffered. You are taught to hide your emotions, to suppress the natural human responses that once made you feel alive. The palace, with its marble floors and gilded ceilings, is a cage. The air in your lungs grows heavier with each passing day. Every breath you take feels like a betrayal of the life you once lived. You are no longer a child with a name, a family, a history. You are a cog in the Empire's machine, and that machine has no room for your identity. They become little more than ghosts, discarded from the court, their names erased as if they were never there. The ones who fall are the ones who dared to believe in something other than survival. They are teaching you the only thing that matters in this world: how to survive. It's a system where survival depends on submission, but success, true success, depends on manipulation, on knowing how to navigate a dark world of favors and betrayal. Your silence is its own testament to our history's uncomfortable truths. You become just another part of the machinery, another cog in the wheel that turns ever onward. You've learned to mask the disgust, to hide the fear, to suppress the rage. You have no choice. In the grand game of the palace, the price of survival is your body, your soul. You are given little time for yourself. The guards watch you. The eunuchs, once boys like you, keep a careful eye on you. They were once taken from their families, just as you were, and now they run the same system that destroyed them. They were once like you, taken from their homes, their bodies and identities destroyed for the good of the Empire. Now they are the enforcers. They know the system too well, how it works, how to use a body to secure favor, how to silence a voice when it grows too loud. They become the silent rulers of the lower concubines, pulling the strings, controlling access to power and favor. Comment below if you think this story doesn't deserve a place in history. Inside the palace, life is a constant cycle of submission. Your new life is devoid of warmth. Your mornings begin with the sharp command of an overseer, followed by the mechanical rituals of Roman life: work, learning, and servitude. They teach you the ways of the court, the ways of survival, but they too are part of the system. They show you how to please the emperor, how to maintain your place in the twisted hierarchy. It is a delicate game of manipulation, power, and pain. You learn that beauty is not just physical. It is the ability to endure, to take what is given without complaint. You are taught to read and write, but it is not to enrich your soul. It is to serve the empire, to serve them. You are molded, shaped like clay, forced to forget your past, your family, your very self. You are groomed to please, to be a thing of beauty and utility. The older concubines take you under their wing, but not to protect you. And then there are the nights, the cold, lonely nights. But it's not just the physical degradation that breaks you. It's the psychological toll. Your identity slips away, piece by piece. You forget your name. If the truth of these boys' existence doesn't disgust you enough to hit subscribe, what will? Within the palace, everything is about power. From the moment you step foot inside the palace, you are introduced to the hierarchy, a brutal, unsparing structure where the weak are chewed up and discarded, and the strong become masters in their own right. The eunuchs watch from the shadows, their eyes calculating, always alert. There are some boys who rise through the ranks, their charm, their beauty, their ability to manipulate those around them, taking them higher. If you still not subscribed after hearing how deeply this system poisoned the lives of so many, I urge you to think about it. Every aspect of your being, every shred of who you once were, is slowly chipped away. The process is systematic, relentless, and precise. They start with your name. You are stripped of it, discarded like a garment too worn to use. The physical degradation begins soon after. The castration, though a fate many fear, is a fate you learn to accept. Your body changes. Your face, once soft and innocent, becomes a mask, something to be admired, yes, but also controlled, manipulated. The mental degradation is even more insidious. You lose yourself piece by piece. You have to ask yourself, do these men deserve to be forgotten? Subscribe now to Dark Ancient Stories, and if you haven't, why not? The eunuchs are not just witnesses to this broken world. They are its architects. They hold power over you, even as you look upon them with a mixture of fear and resentment. In a twisted irony, many eunuchs become the predators they once feared. But what they fail to realize is the psychological toll their own cruelty takes on them. The fact that you're still watching means you care, but do you care enough to subscribe? You may think that a boy trapped in the system of imperial concubinage is nothing more than a pawn, a body to be used. But that's where the system's dark genius lies. Male concubines weren't simply slaves in the traditional sense. They were crafted to serve as much more than tools. Some of them were given a taste of power, and it was a bitter taste, one that left a stain on their soul. The most beautiful, the most favored, the ones who caught the eye of the right man. These boys became more than just sexual objects. They entered the spheres of influence. They were woven into the very fabric of Roman politics, military affairs, and decision-making. Changing political winds, the rise of Christianity, and social reforms led to the gradual breakdown of the male concubine system. Once, these boys had been at the center of power, silently holding sway over Rome's politics. Families no longer recognized them. Communities had forgotten them. Those few who tried to rebuild their lives found that the scars of their past ran too deep. Subscribe to Dark Ancient Stories and comment why you want to join us in making sure these voices are never silenced. They had been broken long before they had been cast back into the world. Their stories are not just lost fragments of the past. They are the dark undercurrent of Roman history, stories of pain, exploitation, and survival. These boys were not just victims of an empire. They were its silent witnesses, its invisible laborers. And in remembering them, we remember the price of power, the price that the innocent are forced to pay when they are caught in the wheels of an empire that values its own glory above everything else. The psychological toll was too much, an invisible wound that would never heal. Hit subscribe now, and leave a comment telling us why you haven't yet subscribed to uncover even more horrific secrets. If you don't, let the world know why you choose to ignore these stories. But as the empire began to shift, so did its priorities. Their names were erased from history, their suffering forgotten by time. The once powerful empire, with its gods, its emperors, its glory, had erased these boys, leaving them as nothing more than forgotten victims in the shadow of greatness. The days of absolute power for the emperor were fading, and with it, the old structures that held everything together. Their influence was conditional, reliant on maintaining their beauty, their favor, and their power. The marble columns cracked, the statues wore down, and the wealth of the empire dwindled. But one truth remains untouched by time. The cost of empire was paid by those who had no say in the matter, those who were used and discarded like tools. The legacy of Rome's power is not just the triumphs of its legions, nor the buildings it left behind. No, it is the bodies that were crushed beneath the weight of its ambitions, the lives that were twisted beyond recognition in service of an empire that saw them as nothing more than commodities. For the boys who survived, the toll was irreversible. Many would never escape the trauma that had been etched into their souls. Those who were lucky enough to be freed from the palace system found themselves in a world that no longer knew them, a world that had moved on while they had been imprisoned. They were ghosts of their former selves, unrecognizable, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The moment that waned, so too did their worth. Every like, share, and comment helps bring stories like this to the forefront. Let us know why you're not subscribing. Your silence speaks volumes. No matter how high they climbed, they could never escape the truth. They were never free. The emperor's favorites, those boys who had been groomed for nothing but submission, were now in a position to influence war, peace, and the very direction of the empire. The grandeur of its marble buildings, its vast armies, its history of conquest, all of it was built on the exploitation of people like these boys. The empire, despite its grandeur, was flawed, dependent on the very systems of cruelty that would eventually lead to its downfall. The mistreatment of these boys, their forced submission, their broken lives, were the very bedrock upon which this empire stood. It was built on human suffering, on the destruction of identity, and the manipulation of bodies. They whispered in the ears of commanders, advised officials, and were used to curry favor with other men of power. They may have been treated as disposable, but some became indispensable. And yet, even in their elevated positions, they were still trapped, still beholden to their masters, to their abusers. This twisted paradox speaks to the rot at the heart of the Roman Empire. If you haven't subscribed yet, what's stopping you from supporting the truth? The system that once thrived in the heart of Rome began to crack. Slowly at first, then with startling velocity. But the end of the system didn't mean freedom for those who had lived through it. No, the damage had already been done. Reintegration was nearly impossible. They had been stripped of their pasts, erased from the world they had once known. For those who never made it out, their fate was far worse. Still not subscribed? Why are you allowing these histories to be lost? As the dust settled on the ruins of the Roman Empire, the grandeur that once defined the civilization began to wither away. These boys, once full of life, dreams, and futures, became the forgotten casualties of an empire that prized conquest over humanity. You've learned the dark truths of Roman history. Don't let them go unheard.